At practice after the All-Star break, New Orleans Pelicans coach Willie Green put Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram on opposite teams. The games were more competitive than normal. They were louder than normal, largely because of all the talking that Williamson and Ingram were doing. Over the break, Ingram said, "The Pelicans got the refresher that they needed, and they came back with a new sense of urgency. After 2 years in the play-in tournament, they wanted to avoid it this time. With urgency came more attention to detail, and more focus on the game plan," Ingram said. Players held each other accountable. They got in a rhythm of how we're going to play, and they worked on what they were supposed to work on. At game time, they were more prepared. "Willie's been doing a good job," Ingram said. "Some days where we don't necessarily want to practice, we're in there practicing. Just for us to be prepared for the next game. A lot of teams don't really practice in March. I think our approach is different. We're learning more." Ingram said this 3 weeks ago at his locker in Barclays Center with his feet in an ice bucket, following a 104-91 win against the Nets. At that time, New Orleans was 5th in the West, a half game behind the 4th-place Clippers, and riding high, having won 7 of its last 8 games. After the buzzer in Brooklyn, big man Larry Nance Jr. had declared in a walk-off interview that the Pelicans were really scary, and going to be a problem for somebody. New Orleans was 83% through the regular season, and, unlike the past few years, its stars were healthy. It appeared to be peaking at the perfect time. "I think that's what it takes. Every team needs a little bit of luck," Ingram said. The injury bug hasn't been around. 2 days later, in Orlando, Ingram hyperextended his left knee. A week after that, against Oklahoma City, Jose Alvarado, the Pelicans' sparkplug, took hits on consecutive possessions and strained his right oblique. The following week, in a rematch against the Magic, Williamson hurt his finger blocking a shot. Ingram has now missed 10 straight games, and New Orleans went 1-4 without Alvarado, including a heartbreaker against San Antonio without Williamson. The Pelicans are 47-32 and 6th in the West, fighting like hell to make the playoffs outright, with games against the Kings, Warriors and Lakers coming up and little time to reintegrate Ingram before the postseason. For a team that looked so good so recently, it's an awfully precarious position to be in. It is not, however, an unfamiliar one. Since 2019, when Williamson, Ingram and Executive Vice President David Griffin arrived, every time New Orleans has looked like a team on the rise, injuries have stalled its ascent.